Last night, in the first of this series of 4 broadcasts about the Warren Report, CBS News considered and tried to give reasonable answers to some major questions about the report. Did Oswald take a rifle to the book depository building? Our answer was yes. Where was Oswald on the day President Kennedy was shot? In the building on the 6th floor. Was Oswald's rifle fired from the building? Yes. How many shots were fired? Most likely 3. How fast could Oswald's rifle be fired? Fast enough. What was the time span of the shots? At least as large as the Warren Commission reported. Most likely the assassin had more time, not less. These, CBS News concluded, added up to the answer to last night's central question. Did Lee Harvey Oswald shoot President Kennedy? Our conclusion was that he did. Beyond reasonable doubt, the chronic misfit and malcontent was at least one of the men who fired on President Kennedy. But was he the killer or a killer? A lone madman or the agent of a monstrous and successful conspiracy? Tonight's central question, was there a conspiracy to assassinate President Kennedy?
This is a CBS News inquiry. The Warren Report. Here is Walter Cronkite.
In the 888 pages of the Warren Commission report on the assassination, these are certainly among the most significant words. The Commission has found no evidence that either Lee Harvey Oswald or Jack Ruby was part of any conspiracy, domestic or foreign, to assassinate President Kennedy. And the report also states, the Commission has found no evidence that anyone assisted Oswald in planning or carrying out the assassination. Let's stop a moment to examine just what that says, and more important, what it does not say. Note that, contrary to the popular impression, the Commission by these words left the door open on the question of conspiracy just a crack. The words do not preclude the possibility of a conspiracy. They don't say that the Commission concluded that there was no conspiracy or that Oswald was the sole assassin. They only say that the Commission could find no evidence that others were involved. No evidence that there was a conspiracy. If there was a conspiracy, it could have taken one of 2 forms. Either Oswald was a sole triggerman for behind-the-scenes manipulators, or there were 1 or more additional gunmen firing at the president. Most of the critics of the report insist there were other gunmen. Within the broad matter of conspiracy, our basic questions for tonight are, where did the shots come from? If the shots did not all come from the book depository window, then there was, most likely, some form of conspiracy. Could a single bullet have wounded both President Kennedy and Governor Connally? The single bullet theory has become perhaps the most controversial aspect of the report. The Commission said it was not essential to its conclusions, but to make those conclusions square with the facts, either 3 groups of wounds were caused by 2 bullets, which is the single bullet theory, or all 3 bullets from Oswald's rifle struck President Kennedy and Governor Connally, which the Commission rejected in the belief that 1 bullet missed completely. The only other alternative is a second assassin. Let's look first at the scene of the assassination in Dealey Plaza, Dallas, Texas. Correspondent Dan Rather.
First, Walter, here's the part of the story that is not in dispute, and that any theory of the assassination must explain.
The presidential motorcade entered the plaza in a sharp right turn off Main and onto Houston. It ran slowly along the eastern edge of Dealey Plaza. Then the motorcade slowed even more for the extremely sharp left, more than 90 degrees onto Elm Street, which runs directly under the windows of the Texas School Book Depository. It's a perfect place for an ambush. And as the limousine drifted into the odd S-curve, shots began to rain on it.
Here is our first basic question for tonight. Where did the shots come from?
We decided on last night's program that some of the shots came from up here, Lee Harvey Oswald's nest in the 6th floor window. But there are persistent reports of other virtually simultaneous shots, which would have meant more than one assassin for a conspiracy. Most often, the other shots are reported from over there, the famous grassy knoll ahead of to the right of and slightly above the president's car. The witnesses for both sets of shots are generally positive and persuasive. This photograph, taken only seconds after the assassination, shows witnesses Oswald's co-workers who perched themselves in fifth-floor windows to watch a parade and instead saw a murder.
So when the president came around, we remember seeing him standing up and waving. Then he just turned to go down Elm Street. We heard a shot, and we saw the president slump. Well, be proud of that, though. We decided there was some fireworks and everything, you know. And then after we saw him slump, we said, I think one guy, I don't remember which one it was, said that, I believe they're shooting at the president. And I believe it came from right up over us.
And I think about that time, well, German said, somebody shooting at the president. And I told German, I said, I know it is. I said, because I can hear them. They are above me, and I can hear the shots and everything. And I could even not hear the empty cartridges hitting the floor, I mean, after the shots had been fired. And so after the shots were fired, well, all the officers and everyone else seemed to think they came from by the track or by the underpass, because that's where everyone ran over the other way. But just like I've said, I've been hunting enough to know the sound of a rifle from a backfire firecracker, anything like, especially that close to me.
The witnesses in the fifth-floor windows say they heard the shots right overhead, but other observers below thought they heard firing from other directions. This is the view of Elm Street from the grassy knoll, up behind the picket fence, where some critics claim another gunman lay concealed. We're looking through the trees at the spot where the final shot took effect, the shot that killed the president. At this point, the president would have presented as good a target from here as from the school book depository. Some think that right here is where the fatal shot came from.
Now, railroad man S.M. Holland was up on this overpass when the firing started. From here, you can see the book depository and the grassy knoll. Mr. Holland came back up here with us a short while ago, and his is perhaps the most telling account in favor of the grassy knoll theory, not only because of what he saw and heard during the assassination, but what he says he found on that grassy knoll immediately afterward.
Just about the time the parade turned on Elm Street, about where that truck is, that bus is now, there was a shot came from up the upper end of the street. I couldn't say then at that time that it came from the depository bookstore, but I knew that it came from the other end of the street. And the president slumped over forward like that and tried to raise his hand up. And Governor Connolly sitting in front of him on the right side of the car, tried to turn to his right, and he was sitting so close to the door, he couldn't make it that way, and he turned back like that with his arm out to the left. And about that time, the second shot was fired. It knocked him over forward, and he slumped to the right. And I guess his wife pulled him over in her lap because he fell over in her lap. And about that time, there was a third report that wasn't nearly as loud as the two previous reports. It came from that picket fence. And then there was the fourth report. And the third and the fourth report was almost simultaneously. But the third report wasn't nearly as loud as the two previous reports or the fourth report. And I glanced over underneath that green tree, and you could see a little puff of smoke. It looked like a puff of steam or cigarette smoke. And the smoke was about, 8 or 10 feet off the ground, and about 15 foot this side of that tree. And I immediately run around to the spot that this shot came from. Of course, there's no one there because it took quite a little while to thread our way through the car. There's so many parked there, and they parked every angle. But when I got over there, I did find where a man had been standing and walking from one end of the bumper to the other. And I guess if you could have counted the footsteps, it'd have been 200 or more on the muddy spots, the footprints. And there was 2 mud spots on the bumper of the station wagon.
Would you take me over there and show me this place you're talking about?
Yes, I will.
All right, let's go.